Welcome to Born or Made, the podcast that dives deep into the heart of success and identity. Are the traits that define us as leaders ingrained from birth, or are they carved out throughout our experiences? Join your host, Anne-Marie LaTulip, as we ask these questions to some of the most insightful and inspiring entrepreneurs of our time. Each episode, we explore their journeys, the decisions that shaped them, and how they've molded their own paths to success. So whether you're an aspiring entrepreneur, a seasoned business owner, or simply curious about the interplay between nature and nurture in professional growth, you're in the right place. Get ready for compelling stories, transformative insights, and a new perspective on what it really takes to make it in the world of entrepreneurship.
All right, welcome back to the Born or Made podcast. I am your host, Anne-Marie LaTulip, and I could not be more excited about my guest today. This woman is probably the most exciting entrepreneur I have ever seen. She has such a brand that is just so unique, and I love it. And her name is Nicole Cherie Hess, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about her right now. Nicole is a self-made millionaire who went from being a broke bartender to the founder of a 7-figure marketing empire in just 13 months. She has empowered thousands of entrepreneurs in the online world to monetize their skill sets and results. So, Nicole, welcome.
It's so great to be here today, Avery. I'm excited to get to share all of the things with you and your audience. So,
that's awesome. I'm excited to hear all of the things. So the first thing I'd like you to do for anyone, I know who you are, I know what you're about, and I just told them a little bit about you, but for anyone that might not know who you are, can you just spend a couple minutes telling us a little bit about you and your journey and how you ended up where you are today?
Yeah, I would love to give you guys a little bit of context because it definitely helps with the conversation today. Once upon a time, I was a bartender, and I wasn't just any bartender. I was a really great bartender. I was in the top 10% of bartenders in the world. I competed in international cocktail competitions. I was the president of the Bartenders Guild. I became a bar consultant at the age of 24. I was consulting for million and billion dollar companies, and I drank all the fucking time, all day, every day, as you do as a bartender. I frequently found myself in the bottom of a bottle of Jameson. And I was suffering, really immensely, like had a lot of mental health issues, was really, anxiety just doesn't cover it, right? Like that was just so much more than that. The depression, I had two suicide attempts. I was miserable, like absolutely fucking miserable. And, you do what you do in those times in your life, right? To like get through it. And like so much of my life was disassociating and numbing out and just trying to escape being alive, really. And it was a very painful point in my life. And I got fired. Kind of the industry just chewed me up and spit me out at some point because I stopped drinking. There was a day where I woke up and I said, you know what? I just don't want to live like this anymore. And there was this voice in my head, which I now know is my higher self. But back then I was like, who said that? Right. But I was driving home from somewhere I never should have been, doing something I never should have been doing. And there was this voice, that kind of came in and I was like, God, I just can't live like this anymore. And the voice said to me, it said, so just don't. And I got home that day and it's like, it had never occurred to me that I could just change, and I got home that day and I decided that I wasn't going to drink for a year. And when I did that, no one believed me. Let's start there. Nobody fucking believed me at all. But I said, I'm not going to drink for a year because I want to see what happens. And so I stopped drinking for a whole year. And of course I made that no problem. And now it's been almost 6 years since I've drank. And, this is just something for me where like my whole life changed because I changed. And in that time, I attracted the love of my life. I, got out of all of the abusive, terrible relationships that I was in. I finally became the mother that I wanted to be. And of course, I built this 7-figure company seemingly out of absolutely nothing, going from $0 to $1 million in 13 months.
Wow. I didn't know of course, I didn't know all of that. And that is so amazing. There's so much I want to ask you about out of what you just said alone. But first, I want to say that must have been, living in that bartender world, right? That must have been really challenging to just be around alcohol all the time and for you to make that decision one day and stick with it. Now, after you made that decision, were you still in bartenderland or?
Yeah, I still carried my consulting contracts for about a year. It was about a year and 3 months, and then COVID hit. Right. But I had quit drinking. And so it was like I was just no longer an energetic match for the bar at all. So it was like
Yeah.
I was going to work and not drinking, which was weird. Right. But then it was like I was so much better at my job. I made so much more money, like weird. Right. And
Yeah.
at first it was terrible. Like everyone tells you that your life gets better when you stop drinking. That is bullshit. Your life gets way fucking worse before it gets better. Right. And so
Really?
I had to feel all those feelings. I had to go through all of the stuff I'd been stuffing for decades. And like really allowing myself to be in a space of, I mean, being in the present moment, which was really, really challenging. But I didn't drink. I was behind the bar. I took shots of water, right? I took shots of water behind the bar and consulting and running 3 bars for, I mean, a year after I quit.
Oh my goodness. That is so inspiring. So did you feel, and if I get too deep, just let me know, but did you feel like drinking made you better at what you were doing at that time, like communicating with people and, building relationships? Was that part of it for you or no?
I mean, for me, drinking was a solution
Okay.
because
Okay.
everybody kind of like thinks that drinking is a problem, right? But actually drinking is a rudimentary, not the highest and best solution, but it was a solution to massive amounts of anxiety. Like
Yeah.
I had social anxiety. I'm an introvert and like I very much present like I'm not, but I am. Like I am
Yeah.
very introverted. I only get energy being in my own energy. Like being around other people is a lot for me. And like I've gotten way better at it. It's a skill set, but like core, I'm an introvert. And so being in the bar all the time, like, I had to be around people all the time, all day, every day. And so I had a whole bunch of anxiety from this. I also had a lot of terrible things that were going on in my life. I was in abusive relationships. I have, all the daddy issues, like every single one that there is, I have that. So like I have all of the abuse stories with that I just wasn't really dealing with. So I was riddled with anxiety and like felt locked up in my body. And the only thing that made me feel better was drinking, right? Because it was like I could just like not be me for a little while, and I could take a
Ah,
break from the anxiety. And of course that, I mean, you're in the environment where everybody else is doing it. And so it feels very normal.
yeah. I have to say, I can totally relate to that. I've been in the bartending industry myself, not quite as extensive as you have, but I can totally relate. So backing up a little bit, how did you get started bartending? Was that something that you kind of wanted to do or you just fell into or
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that anybody grows up, except for my kids, and grow up and say that they want to be a bartender.
right? Well, it can be really good money, as you know, right?
I mean, for me, it was really great money. As a bartender, I was making about $10,000 a month.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, I made great tips and I was very good at what I did. I was just very naturally gifted at it. But no, I was on my way to law school, like a good girl. And
Oh,
I met a boy, as you do. And I met a boy when I was 18 and we got together and I was in college for about maybe a year and a half, like so when we got together. And then I dropped out, right? I dropped out of college and I moved to go be in the city that he was in. And I went and I got like at the time I was 18-ish and I got a job. I got a job at a high-end steakhouse, right? And
ah,
I was working at a really nice steakhouse, and the day I turned 21, they put me behind the bar. Back then, female bartenders weren't at this steakhouse, and like a lot of steakhouses, like fine dining, like
mhm.
female bartenders were not a thing at night. You could bartend during the day, but not at night. And so that was very much how it was here. I was the first female bartender to ever work a night shift at this bar. It'd been there for 15 years, right? And so I was actually cocktail waitressing. It was my training night. It was my first night of training. And two of the bartenders got in a fight with the manager and they walked out at 7 o'clock on a Friday night. And like, I knew nothing about bartending, nothing, right? Like it was literally a training night of cocktailing and the girl that was supposed to train me didn't show up. And so I was like frantic anyway. This is a steakhouse that does 500 covers on a Friday night.
Oh
It was
my God.
that manager pulled me in the office. He lined up 3 shots of Rumplemans and he said, "Take these, get your ass behind the bar, and it'll never be this hard again." And he was right. It never was that hard again. Sink or swim, bitches. That's how it goes.
Sink or swim, absolutely. And that's gave you a moment to shine. So that is so cool. So speak to a little bit. You've done so much with bartending now. You've done consulting, as you mentioned. I've heard that I've learned a little bit about you that used to do international competitions and things like that. So first off, I have a couple questions, but first off, I want to know bar consulting, helping bar owners start. Do you know John Taffer? Have you ever met him?
I have met John Taffer. Yeah. I have met John Taffer. A lot of that is for show. I mean, as you know, TV is
Really?
a lot of that is very persona based. Yeah.
Oh my God. Can you talk about that a little bit or?
I can talk about it a little bit, but
Yeah, just a little bit.
I mean, I was headhunted for the show. And because they bring on different experts and all of
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
So I was headhunted for the show. I ended up turning it down, but it's very like glam and glitz and like TV. It's very sensationalized, right? For like
Yes.
how it does. And I will say that John Taffer was brilliant in the mindset of being able to show people that running a bar isn't just about being drunk with your friends.
Yeah,
A
right.
lot more that goes into it. And so I think that has definitely helped a lot of bar owners. It's definitely helped a lot of consultants to be able to get jobs because he normalized bar consulting. And that is something that like the industry really needed. And so like from that standpoint, it was really great. But as far as like what is actually on the show, that is
It's
that
not.
is how this goes. Like that's not how it works. And like for example, every single bar from season 1 closed after that consulting, right? And obviously the point of consulting is to help a bar to get better. And like going
Right.
in and stripping the walls down and putting flat screen TVs everywhere and making a flow pattern in the dining room is not how you help a bar to make more money. Like
Right.
that's not it.
Yeah. No, I had a feeling, and that's why I was so excited to ask you about that because I do watch it and it just seems like most of them do close. So that was something I was really, really curious about. So you've had a good success rate with the bars you've consulted with?
I have.
That's awesome.
I was taking bars like my big success story was actually a bar that I took from $15,000 a week to $150,000 a week. I'm in Nevada. Okay, so I'm in
Okay.
Nevada. We have gaming, right? So it was a very it is a casino inside of a truck stop, right? So it is a craft cocktail bar, like craft whiskey bar inside of a mini casino inside of a truck stop. And so this thing, like we had a very interesting marketing plan to get this thing up and running. But it turned out fantastic.
That's awesome. Are you in Vegas or where?
I'm in Reno.
Oh, okay. Okay. Wow, that's really cool. So talk to me a little bit about what was an international competition like? Did you have to just compete against bartenders from all over the world with specific drinks, or how did that work?
So one of my favorite international cocktail competitions, I've done quite a few, but one of
Yeah.
my favorite was the Di Serono. And so I did an online submission. It all kind of starts with this really wide angle lens, right? Where like tons of thousands of people submit, right? And they go through, they look at your recipe, your recipes. They also look at your resume and who you are and all of that kind of stuff, right? And so I got a call. It was like a random Tuesday, right? Like I had done this submission like months ago, and like you do so many submissions that you just don't even think about it, right? And
Yeah.
so I got this call and they were like, is this Nicole? And I was like, yeah, who's this? Right? And they're like, oh, we just want to let you know that we've selected you as our regional winner for the Di Serono Mixing Star. And so I won the national level for the US just from the online submission. And like you have to submit like a story and the cocktail and like your prep methods and all this other stuff with it, right? So I had won the preliminary US one. They flew me first class to Sicily and I got to compete there in Italy, right? And so I was competing in Sicily. So I did the competition like at the Di Serono distillery and then I won that, right? So I got to go on like Good Day Italia and do all the things. It's absolutely fantastic to get this kind of like connection with like a brand and like getting to meet all of the people and you tour the distillery and like all of the other bartenders are from all of these other countries. I mean, I think that there's probably 20 or 30 of us in that room. And it was just an incredible experience to go and they take care of everything. You stay at a beautiful villa and
Wow.
get to just do all the things, eat all of the food, really.
I love that. That's something that nobody really, unless you're in that bartending industry, like I know for me, I didn't know that even existed. you
Most people
know?
don't. I mean, it's a
Yeah.
very high echelon of craft cocktail bartender land. And I mean, and then the next year they called me and had me come back and I got to judge the next year's competition. They flew me out to New York. There's a cocktail convention that happens every year called the Manhattan Cocktail Classic. And so I got to judge at the classic and like, it's
Wow. That is such an interesting world. That is so cool. And I want to hear, okay, so I want to hear about your transition after that. But first I want to go back and the idea of this podcast, are we born or made with this crazy entrepreneurial mind, which I call it crazy because I always felt like I was crazy when I was younger because I was definitely born. So looking back, do you feel like you were born with this entrepreneurial mind, or do you think it kind of evolved in your life and in work history? What's your thought on that?
Well, I mean, I think that my mother would tell you that I was born this way, and to the certain extent of like, I hate school, like I'm good, I can get good grades, whatever, but I hate being told what to do. I think the American school system is absolutely terrible. Watching my children go through it has been torture. I hate it. And I think that it's, does us no justice as humanity, right? And so
Yeah.
knowing that, I definitely knew that I didn't fit in, right? Like I felt crazy. I could pass all the tests, I could pass all the classes, but I didn't want to go and I didn't want to do busy work. And I certainly didn't care about your goddamn dress code, right? So following the rules for the sake of following the rules is just bullshit, in my opinion. And most of the world is built to be followers, and we need that. We need followers. We need people that are going to work at the DMV. We need people that are going to go and do the shit that I certainly don't want to do, right? Like we need people that are going to behave that way. But I think that about 30% of the population is born with this kind of like leadership quality innately, and then you can cultivate it and move it from there, right? It's like, as I went through school, I really struggled with authority. As I went to college, I was like, this is bullshit. You guys told me it was going to be better when I got here, and it's the same shit as high school. Fuck this noise. I don't want to do it. And then when I got into working for other people, it was like, I don't understand the concept of let's do it the way it's always been done because this is the way it's always been done. That's just bullshit to me. And so I think the entrepreneurial mind is the kind of mind who can identify constraints and has the desire to alleviate them. And that solution orientation, I think, is something that is somewhat innate and then can be fostered and cultivated as you ascend through society,
Yeah,
right?
and that's so true. And I had somebody else I had on, and I asked that same question, and it's kind of exactly what you said. But she said, "I think we're born and made because we're born that way, right? But we foster that over time." And there's so much I want to say about that, about schools. Yeah, I was the same way. I could not deal with authority, even when I had jobs, like stupid jobs. I hate to say stupid jobs because every job is important, but those first time jobs like mine was Burger King or working, at Marshalls or the card store, whatever, stupid jobs. I just I would last like 3 months and then I would quit because I hated my bosses. I didn't want to. I hated authority. I felt like a bird in a cage always. Same when I went to college. It was the same exact thing. Um, so yeah, I think that you can kind of recognize those traits, but whether or not you foster it, and that's what I was going to say about the schools. I don't think there's enough emphasis put on that in schools. I think that we're taught, at least we were taught, graduate college, get a job, punch your time clock, do the same thing day in and day out over and over again. I don't think there was enough emphasis put on, hey, well, there's this option. Maybe you could start your own business, maybe you could be an entrepreneur. So that's something I feel really passionately about with the school systems.
No,
So,
I'm totally with you. And like one
yeah.
of the missions that we're doing, like within my company now, is we're developing this teen program. It's called Wonder Teens. And so this is something that we like, I mean, being a teen, I was miserable in school. And like, I mean, this led to so many of those problems that we just talked about, right?
Yeah.
This led to abusive relationships. This led to drinking and anxiety and depression and not feeling good enough and not feeling like I belonged. That came from school. Like there was obviously some parental things, my dad is a dickbag and all of that. But I mean, really, if I think back to like what caused the most amount of pain and suffering in my life, it was 100% school. And now as I'm watching my children go through this, they are suffering from it, right? And like at some point I'm like, okay, like how can I wish I could do it faster, but it's like it's a hard needle to move. But we're developing this Wonder Teen program where I want teens to come in and like have a little like 90-day, right? Like have a little 90-day experience of being like a little intern You get to come to my company and see what it's like to work for yourself. What it's like to, you know, be a marketing company. I mean, obviously I can't speak to every entrepreneurial industry there is, but I can speak to mine and show that there's an opportunity here where you don't have to follow this beaten path to be a good person, because that's what we were taught, right? It's like good people go to college. Like, fuck that shit. You know what? You don't is learning from people who didn't make it. Like, I don't want to learn from someone who didn't make it, right? Like, I want to learn from somebody who's at the top crushing it and perpetuate a better narrative for my life. And so I want to provide that to teens. And I also want to kind of break that mold of, you know, good people go to college. You know, good people choose what makes them happy, right? And like putting fulfillment first in your life is way more important than what you got on your fucking 7th grade math test, you know?
Oh my God, Nicole, I can't even, so true. Because here's the thing, like we're both in the marketing industry. I'm more about, you know, building funnels and things like that. But if we went to college for what we're doing right now, like it would be like textbooks, it would be hundreds of thousands of dollars, where now
outdated, all of it outdated.
Yeah. And now we can learn from the people that have already done it, know that it's working, and it's so much easier than the whole college route. So I could not agree with you more about that. And the other thing I wanted to hit on too is the people. Do you ever run into those girls that were like, I don't want to say cheerleaders, because there's some cheerleaders that are awesome, but for my experience, I didn't get along with the cheerleaders. I was bullied, whatever, who like loved high school. And like they just reminisce about high school, and they put them on Facebook. Oh, high school, I miss it so much. And I'm like, oh my God, I hated high school.
Yeah, dude, we call those the peaked in high school Rob Lowe, right? Like from that commercial. No, I mean the peaked in high school bitches. Like, I mean, more power to you. I'm really glad that the best time of your life was when you were 16 years old, fucking bullying other bitches and like you were better than everyone else. That was the worst time of my life. Like,
me too.
I suffered immensely. And I mean, and I've tried to kill myself in my 20s, and I still think high school was worse, right? Like, I mean, high school was absolutely terrible for me. And you know, I was never a cool kid. I was never popular. I was never in that fucking realm, like at all. I spent my entire freshman year eating lunch in the bathroom, right? Like, I mean, hated every second of school, and I could not wait to get the fuck out of it. And when I see these people now, they're so excited about their high school reunion. Like, I didn't go to my fucking high school reunion. Like, I didn't like people then, and I still don't fucking like you people, right? Like, I'm not interested in hanging out with people that I met geographically because we happen to live in the same fucking neighborhood as each other. That's ridiculous.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you were mean to me back then. Like, you know, I know we were kids, but whatever. Yes, I couldn't agree with you more. So, all right, I want to pivot a little bit because I went way down a tangent there, but I have to ask you, and this is something so curious to me. Tell me where the unicorn came in, because for anyone that's listening, Nicole's brand is unicorns, Wonder World, and the name of her podcast is Unicorns Don't Wear Pants, which I'd love to know where that came from. But speak to the unicorns. How did that start?
Okay, so well, let me just tell you about the podcast, and then we'll circle back from that.
Okay,
so,
all right, yeah.
My podcast is called Real Unicorns Don't Wear Pants.
Oh,
and it's kind of an inside joke that started between me and my 2 best friends in bartenderland. One of which who died in a car accident.
Oh no.
And so like it's a tribute to him, right? So that's how the podcast started, as a tribute to my best friend. Because one day we were working this bar event, right? And it was filled with all of those kind of, you know, high school level people. Okay.
Right.
And they thought they were so much better than us, right? And so we got off the shift, and like, you know, we were sitting at a bar down the street, and a couple of them walked in to come up, and they were like trying to come and talk to us, because in the bar we them, right? So they were trying to come up to us and talk to us and do all the things. And my best friend looks at them and he was like, fuck your pants, bro, get out of here. Because they were like all dressed up and like acting like they were so much better and all this shit. And so the whole battle cry of the podcast is fuck pants. And it's kind of this nod to, you know, the conventional way of doing things, and right, like, and being like that superiority complex where you feel like you're so much better than everybody else because you're popular. Fuck you, right? So the whole the tagline of it is fuck pants, and we're referring to that kind of energy, right? But the whole point of about being a unicorn is that, you know, my whole life, I have felt like literally a unicorn trapped in a human's body. Like I just don't belong here. Like never have I related to something more than when I was like 6 years old watching the last unicorn movie, and they turn the unicorn into a human, right? And then she starts crying and she's like, I can feel my body dying all around me. And I was
Yeah.
like, this is what's happening to me. I'm a unicorn. I'm trapped in here, and like I'm a human, and it's awful. Let me out. I want my real life back. And like that feeling has always been inside of me. The Last Unicorn was my favorite book, my favorite movie. All about it when I was a child. I was obsessed with unicorns when it wasn't cool to be obsessed with unicorns, right? Like when it was nerdy and weird. That's when now it's cool, but back then it wasn't. I was totally obsessed with it. I was actually published when I was 5. I have a 5-year-old little poem about a unicorn in the meadow.
Really?
So,
That's awesome.
it's just been a running theme in my life. And so when I went to set out and like build the business, I was like, you know what? And of course, nobody choose this as a theme, right? Everyone wanted me to be an adult. My coaches are like, you should choose something, that's good. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to choose unicorns because I'm going to do whatever the fuck I want. Like, I'm not going to be told what to do. So,
Yeah.
My brand is built around, being your true self. And that's really what it means to me, is that, I get to be me regardless of what the fuck you think about it.
And I love that. And that is kind of like we were talking before I hit record. I love that your brand is so different and so unique and so, like you said, unapologetically you. And I'm sure some people might be turned off. For anyone that's listening, you might have noticed a couple of colorful words, and that's who you are, and that's fine. So I'm wondering, did you have any adverse reactions to that in the beginning?
100%. And
Yeah.
I still have adverse reactions to it.
Yeah.
And a big part of attraction is repelling, right? And knowing that you're not for everybody. I am not for everyone. And I am not someone who tries to be likable. I have done a lot of work on myself around codependency and people pleasing bullshit that I used to do all the time. And the fact of the matter is that this is my life, and I get to show up in the way that I want to. I get to swear if I want to swear. I say the C word on a live, golden buttholes and doing silly things like that. Like I'm always in this space of, really, really just saying the first thing that I think. And that is so looked down upon in so many different ways. And this is something that for me, my life opened up when I started doing this. This is how I met my husband, right? Is that we were on a dating app, we were on Hinge, right? And I was done with dudes. I was so fucking done with dudes. And I was just like, you know what? I'm just going to say the first thing that comes into my head.
Yeah.
I'm not going to filter it. I'm not going to censor it. I'm just going to say it. And when I started doing that, I mean, obviously lots of men didn't like that, right? But this one man really did. And so like, I understood the magic of that is that you got to get rid of all of the people that are not for space for the person who is for you.
Yeah.
Right. And so all those high school bitches, all those people who look down on me, all those people that think it's so unprofessional to put butthole in a subject line on an email and get onto my live to come and tell me that. She's like, this email that you sent out is so unprofessional. You cannot write butthole in the subject of an email line. I was like, bitch, I just did.
Yeah, well then delete it. Don't read it.
I can do whatever I want. Fuck you. and there's no one you can report me to. There's no fucking HR, right? Like I'm the manager, bitch. Like, what do you want?
And you have a Facebook group. I think you probably have more than one Facebook group, right? But at least one. I know that I'm in. And what is it? Up to 25,000, almost 30,000 people. Am I right?
It's 30,000 people.
That is insane. So considering now everyone in that Facebook group, I'm guessing over the years, you have to really, how long have you been doing this?
I just had my 4-year anniversary.
Okay. So over the 4 years, I'm guessing you and your team have done the best job at weeding out the nasties, right? In the Facebook group. So by now it's.
What's really great about me being so brash is that I don't have to weed them out. They just fucking leave. Like I don't have to like at this point, like in the beginning, people would have opinions and they would come and they would express those opinions. At this point, people know better, right? It's like, you're not going to come into my fucking house and tell me anything.
Disrespect me. Yeah.
Right? Like you don't get, you aren't in charge here.
Yeah. Disrespect my, yeah. I love that. I got to tell you, I've never seen a group. I mean, now is it mostly women? Do you, or have you kind of changed that? I know originally maybe you were for women, or
In the beginning, my coach was very insistent, and he was 100% correct. Let me say this, right? He was definitely 100% correct to have me niche down to women, even though I was very resistant to it because of those high school bitches, right? I
yeah,
did to serve women because I did not like women. And being a bartender, I worked mostly with men. All of my consulting contracts, most of them were men. And so
mhm,
I didn't really work with women. And he was like, no, you need to niche down and work with women. And I was like, oh, please go fuck yourself. And he asked me a very important question that I'm so grateful that I listened to him on. You got to listen to your fucking mentors, And like he said, Nicole, do you want to be successful? Do you want to be right? And that conversation changed my life because at that moment I wanted both, of course, but he said I could only have one. And I was like, okay, a lot of money. He's making way more money than me. I'm going to shut the fuck up and I'm going to listen to him. So I said, okay. And I niched down to women. So the first target market of the Facebook group was women, and I was in the female entrepreneur space. And I think that had I not done that, there's no way that I would have had the success that I did because the men wouldn't have taken me seriously, just like men didn't take me seriously in bar consulting land, right? It was like, oh, and they don't think about anything that could be possibly in your head. And I was constantly like trying to prove myself, trying to justify those things. And now after I've made millions of dollars, it's funny that the men just listen and I don't have to go through the mansplaining stage when I've made money like this, right? So once I got to the point of success and streamlining my systems and having a well built out 7-figure business, then I didn't have to prove myself to men anymore. And so now a lot of men are in my very top tiers.
okay,
I have like a 50K, I have a 50K offer. And so the men are in those higher tiers. They don't play the unicorn games as much as the women do, although some do, some of them play, but
yeah,
I do have a lot of men at the top. And also at some point I made a decision that I just didn't really agree with gender delineations. And as a bartender, God, I fucking hated that. I hated being called a female bartender. I fucking hated that. And
yeah,
there were
oh yeah,
competitions. There was a competition that was only for female bartenders, and I would they asked me, and I said I will never do that because I think it's bullshit that there would be a competition that's only for men, and you guys would be up in fucking torches and pitchforks if there was a competition only for men. Yet you're holding a competition only for women. Fuck that. And so
mhm,
I never participated in that kind of shit, like ever. In bartenderland, I stood against it, which made me very unpopular. Okay, big shock there, right? Very unpopular. And so that's something that I carry forward into entrepreneurland. I don't give a shit what is between your legs. I could care fucking less, right? Like, are
yeah,
you good at what you do? Because if you're good at what you do, I want to help you to do more of that. I don't care about your gender. And so it's just not a topic of conversation in my world anymore. We're all unicorns anyways, right?
yeah, yeah. And for me, I'd rather it be about, coming from a place of collaboration rather than competition. You know what I mean? So if that's you, then that's great. That's kind of how I feel about that. So yeah, that's great. So one thing we haven't talked about really, and I'd love for you to speak to it a little bit, is your transition from bartender land to entrepreneurial land. How did that look for you?
Well, at that point, like at the end of my service industry kind of stint over there,
Yeah,
I was consulting for 2 bars and I had a like bar job that was just a big cash bar job.
yes.
I got fired from 2 of them in the same month for things that, I mean, if you would have seen the things I was doing behind the bar while I was drinking, like those are
Uh-oh.
all fireable offenses. The things I was doing behind the definitely not, but I just wasn't an energetic match. One of the bars, the big cash lucrative one, I actually got sexually harassed. And like as a bartender, my line is very far out, right? Like I will tolerate a lot of sexual harassment. Like, and I don't take it personally. It's not a big deal. I'm not sensitive. Like there's no snowflakeness of this. But that manager taking my shifts from me because I wouldn't sleep with him. And that's when
Oh,
it got to the point where I was like, fuck you, right? Like I was so fucking mad about it. I had text message proof that sent, like, I was like, come break down my drawer so I can like, get to my next shift, right? Like, cause he was like not doing his job, like punishing because I wouldn't sleep with him. He's like, send me nudes and I will, right? Like I had like text message evidence of this shit. I took it to the owners of the company. Guess who got fired?
you.
Not him, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I got fired because of that. Then at the other bar, This one was crazy. Like I was working, it was my last shift and I was working a Monday afternoon and it was like my happy hour shift that I built up. And it was like, I'd always make like $500 in 4 hours. It was awesome. And I loved the shift and it was actually called Unicorns Unite with the shift.
That's
Funny
weird.
enough.
Yeah.
Right. And if you fall asleep at the bar with your shoes on, there's a certain rule in life. Know this rule, you need to learn this rule if you're going to be a drinker, okay? If you fall asleep with your shoes on in a place that is not your house, other people are allowed to draw certain things, certain shapes, very specific shapes on your face with Sharpie. Those are the rules. I don't make the rules. These are just the rules of life, okay?
I didn't know that rule.
That is definitely a rule. Okay. So that happened. And somebody who was one of the girls was off shift, one of the bartenders, the other bartenders were off shift. And so she grabbed a Sharpie and drew a dick on this guy's face as she's supposed to. Right. And the managers threw a fucking fit with this and they fired me because I was the bartender on duty. But like I was the manager, right? So I was the manager at this bar and bartending. And so they fired me. Guess who they gave my job to?
Her.
The girl that drew the dick.
Yeah.
Like, you have to be kidding me. And so, like, I mean, in hindsight, like these were things that were happening for me. But at the time, it felt like it was happening to me.
Yeah.
Right. So I got fired from these two jobs. I still had one project left to do. And so I was finishing up that consulting project, but it had a time date stamp, right? Like it ended, it was a 90-day contract. And then after that, I was like, I don't know what the fuck I'm going to do. And so I had no bartender jobs. I went to Italy for a month. And when I got back, I was like, okay, time to figure out what I'm going to do. And I was on Facebook, as you do, right? Scrolling. Okay. Yeah. And I fell into a Facebook funnel long before I knew what an ad funnel was. I had no fucking clue. Okay. So I clicked on an ad and I'll remember it for the rest of my life because it was this beautiful blue lagoon that it was like work from anywhere in the world, like one of those stupid ads. Right. And so I clicked it. And then before I knew it, I was on a sales call that I didn't know was a sales call because I was completely illiterate to this world. Right. And before I knew it, I was taking $3,000 that I didn't really have off of credit cards and buying this course. This was 1 month before COVID hit.
Oh, wow.
Okay. So I bought the course and the course was about how to do Facebook ads for small businesses. And so I was thinking to myself, if I knew how to run Facebook ads, I could do this for bars. That was my line of thinking. Right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And so I jumped into this course. It had 90, not 19, 90 fucking modules. I did all 90 of these modules. I was so bad at tech. Like seriously, I was so fucking bad. I hadn't touched a computer since high school. I was terrible at tech. Right. So I got in there. It was really hard for me. I was really, really struggling. But I just took action. Right. And so I got 10 high ticket reoccurring clients and had a $20,000 reoccurring in 6 weeks. And the coach inside of that program was like, how did you get all these clients? He's like, you don't know anything about Facebook ads. Cause I was asking a bunch of stupid questions every week on the call. Right. He's like, you clearly know nothing about Facebook ads. How did you get these clients?
Yeah.
And I showed him the methodology that I was using on my personal page, like for, how to do a content strategy, which is the same content strategy that I taught to bartenders. Right.
Okay.
And so I did the same thing. And he was like, you need to stop what you're doing right now. He's like, you're terrible at Facebook ads. You need to stop. And you need to just go teach a course and teach people how to do this. He had me teach a couple of the people in his course how to get clients and they all got clients. And he was like, you need to stop what you're doing right now. He's like, I will help you. And so he helped me. That was my first coach. And I set everything up in the Facebook group. I launched a beta, closed 20 people into that beta. And one of the girls in there was a copywriter. Her name was Jasmine. She was 21 years old. She was working for a copywriting agency, making like $1,200 a month, right?
Okay. Yeah.
She came in 3 weeks, applied, I taught her to do, and closed 3,500 clients in 3 weeks.
Wow.
And so then I knew I had something, right? And my coach was like, run, right? He was like, faster, 5x your prices, do all the things. And I did. And it was just result after result after result where people were coming in. And the chick that's now the support coach in my program, she's, like my right-hand man. She was one of my first clients in that group too. And she closed $3,000 clients after only being able to, she was in Beachbody doing like a $33 offer or whatever. And like, I taught her how to do all the things and she closed these clients right off the bat. And so I kept investing in myself. I kept learning more about sales. I sucked at sales at first. I was just really good at marketing,
Yeah.
I was so good at marketing that it overcame the sales problem for a while. But then I eventually needed a coach that would help me with sales. I learned the art of conversational sales, which I realized I already really had from bartenderland. I just didn't know how to apply it. Mm-hmm. And I had my first 6-figure month online. And that's when I started the podcast. And then after that, I developed my signature cash injection strategy, which is called a Wonder Retreat. And I had 3 back-to-back Wonder Retreats. The first one was 202,000, the second was 374,000, and the third one 2,000. Boom, 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 right at $1 million in 13 months.
Wow. That is such an inspiration. I was going to ask you, how much of that client attraction, helped, I should say, how much bartenderland helped you with that client attraction, because I'm sure you were trying to build your clientele in the bar and other people's bars. So that must have played a part. Yeah.
Well, I mean, they definitely, none of the clients were from bartenderland, right?
Well, no, yeah, but the act of attracting
the skill sets, 100%,
yes.
right? Like, I mean, I learned how to build a bar following when I was 21 years old. That's that's the only thing that I ever used social media for, right? I wasn't talking to my high school friends. Right?
Yeah, no.
So I had used social media to learn how to build up following and have people follow me from bar to bar, because I would naturally get fired because of my authority problem, right? But I would bring all of my regulars with me, and that was because of, my ability to really connect in this certain way. So I took that forward, taught the same skill set that I taught to bartenders to entrepreneurs.
That is so cool, Nicole. That is such an inspiration. I mean, so fast. You just nailed it, right? From not knowing anything about tech to creating your own empire. I mean, that is really a cool story. I love that. So let me ask you, what's next for you? Do you have anything big coming up? Anything new and exciting?
Well, I mean, we always have things running in the pipe, right?
Well, yeah.
But we, have at this point really branched back into in-person events. I mean,
Okay.
my whole launch of my business was done virtually. Obviously, we were in the middle of COVID, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I built that 7 figures in COVID and year before anyone was out. But as a bartender, I've always done very well with in-person events, and I worked with brands and I did these cocktail competitions, right? And so now we are really developing the in-person version of a lot of our trainings. So we have a thing called Wonder Camp, and Wonder Camp is housed in Lake Tahoe. And so it's like summer camp for entrepreneurs, right? It's like you come, you learn sales skills, you learn closing skills, you leave as a closer, you get to come. We have this beautiful facility that's right on the lake. That is actually like a little kid summer camp, and they have these cute little cabins. We deck out the
Oh,
cabins for you. You come, you do an entrepreneurial stint with us for the week. It's fantastic. And so we're really building that piece out right now. We did the first one last year, and now we're doing it on an annual basis and really looking to grow that up. And to kind of turn it into like a trade show element too, where we'll eventually have, big name speakers and
yeah,
kind
yeah.
of come and set up a booth, and we'll have attendees and all of that. So we're kind of building the layers of Wonder Camp. And then we also do in-person events like internationally. We just did one in Mexico. We just got back from that one.
Oh,
So
cool.
a Wonder Retreat in Mexico. And so we do high level money mindset development. That's more of a luxury level thing, right?
Yeah, sure.
So,
Yeah, yeah.
I love to do the in-person events because it just,
Well,
it's like it's marrying of the two worlds,
it is. And it's now that COVID's been over for a little bit, I feel like the virtual events are starting to get more popular again, which I love. I love those. I mean,
Yeah.
virtual is fine, but there's that human element that's a little bit different with in-person events. So that's awesome. All right, so we're getting to the end. So before I end, I always ask a few just random questions just to get to know you a little better, all right? So first, if you had the ability to go to outer space, would you? Would you walk on the moon?
Absolutely, I would.
Would you really? See, I wouldn't. I wouldn't. I'd
No,
be scared.
I want to see it. I want to see it from that perspective. And I want to feel the speed of that. And I want to feel the orbit. A lot of things that I do, like for my energetic context of growing my money mindset, has a lot to do with being on a plane, right? The speed that you're catching with that. And
Yeah.
normalizing speed for my body so that I can move very quickly. And I think that being in the rocket and feeling, I would like to feel the feeling of being in orbit.
Yeah, yeah. That's cool. I would too. I just would be afraid I would never return. All right, ready. Who, if you had the ability to have dinner with one person, who would it be?
Oh, well, I mean, I think that I'll probably give you the sappy answer on this. If I had the ability to have dinner with one person, it would be my best friend that died in the car. So
Oh,
I would give anything to have one more day with him.
I'm so sorry. That's the one you mentioned at the bar, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's a good answer then. Really good answer. Okay, and then the last one is what, and I'm sure everybody asks you this, but I just love to know because I have a running list. What book has most inspired you?
You
Business
know,
or person, it doesn't matter, business or whatever.
I have to tell you that my favorite author is Anne Rice. Okay.
Yeah.
She wrote the Vampire
Mhm.
Chronicles, right? Anne Rice is second to none when it comes to character development. She is fantastic with the detail orientation and the layering up over generations of character. And this contribution to how I write and how I speak to my audience and how I connect to my clients is directly from reading those books as a very young child. I actually got an F on my paper grade for writing my book interview with her because my teacher said that that was not age appropriate reading material.
But she
But
shouldn't have, I mean, was it good? She shouldn't have given you a
right. But for me, character development and like understanding the human psyche has been full, and seeing that through character development has really helped me in so many ways as an entrepreneur, in sales, in marketing, in delivery, in the way that I connect through these pieces. That has been, one of the biggest things for me. I don't read a lot of biz books. I gotta tell you, biz books, guys, if you don't know this, biz books are open loops. That's what they're for. They're
Yeah.
to sell you into somebody's program. And so if you're reading those books from an energy of, understanding hack and write your own book, good on you. But biz books in general leave out a lot of the details and the things that you actually need in order to be successful.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I'm not much of a reader myself. I do audiobooks sometimes, but more often I'm listening to podcasts. So yeah, that's cool. Anne Rice, I never would have expected that. That's so cool. All right. Well, listen, Nicole, there is so much more I didn't even get to on my list. So I might have to have you back sometime.
Fair enough.
All right. But it has been so great talking to you. And I wish you the best with everything coming up, and congratulations.
No, thank you for having me on. I actually have a gift for your audience.
Oh yeah.
I always bring a present.
Oh, okay. I didn't know. Yeah, please tell me. What
Yeah.
is
Guys, if you're thinking about this stuff and you're listening and you're thinking like I could do this, or maybe I want to be able to do this out, or if you're an entrepreneur and you're looking to be in that space of how you can make more money online, if you go to www.nonstopnotifications.com, you'll get entered into my 100 wonderful ways to get more and better clients. And this will give you a breakdown of strategies that you can be using online right now to start closing more clients and making more money. You don't have to do all of the strategies. It's more of like a buffet where you can choose your two strategies that you really like that will work really well for you.
awesome? All right, great. And I'll put that in the show notes, of course, as well. So people will have that link. Okay, awesome. Well, again, thank you. And I will talk to you soon, maybe again sometime.